Yeah, and basically what we're talking about is interlinking parts. I'm thinking kind of like puzzle type pieces, and that's the way I'm taking this topic. Our trade has changed from the old days. Things were built a lot differently. There was a lot of structural tubing used, angle iron used. We didn't form as many parts together. We'd cut everything out by hand with a torch or whatever. And I'm thinking of a stand that I'm replacing, not really at a food plant, but it's at a weld shop for the school, for ISU. And I was looking at the stand that we're replacing, and he wants it more modern, because they're getting a new weld shop. And so looking at the way that they built that 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and I'm thinking, why did they build it like this? And it was all just hand cut out, and nothing was formed. It was all welded together. And today, now with 3D design, CNC cutting tables, we're able to draw it to where we can cut it on a flat pattern, bend it all up, and it's got puzzle pieces, you might say, or slots that fit into other slots, and you just weld it up.
And it's perfect.
Yeah, it's exactly the way it needs to be. One of the biggest ones I can think of is a stairway. We'll build stair treads, form them, put tabs on them, and we'll build the side stringers, form them so they got strength. They've already got the slots in them, and those stair treads just fit in like a puzzle. And we weld them, and they have the perfect rise and run to them.
Every single step.
Every single step is exactly the same. And when you think about...
Can't make a mistake.
Can't make a mistake. And when you think about how they did it 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they get a big old C channel for the sides, and you got your guy out there with his framing square, and maybe, what were those things that clamped onto a framing square, what are those called? Can't remember. Anyways, they would lay this thing out with a soapstone and on both sides of the treads.
Yeah.
And then they would weld those treads in there, hold them just right. And boy, were you upset when you got to the top and you were an inch off on the rise and run.
You discovered that you made
You're
a
like,
mistake.
oh no, you gotta cut them all back off and start over again. And I'm speaking from experience. There was one stairway that we put together, probably 14 years ago.
The old way.
The old way. And we measured, and my guy just was really struggling with it. All of us were, apparently. And it happened to be the stairs that all the supervisors and team leaders were going to be walking up to get into work. So it had to be perfect, okay?
Yeah, you didn't want one to be an inch different. They'd strip on that thing every
And
time.
I wanted to, anyways, it was bad, but we cut those things off about 4 times before we had it right. I'm not kidding. I'm ashamed to say. But where we're able to tab and link these parts in, and that's just a simple example of stairway. There's a lot of things that we've built that way. I can tell you.
Most things we do build that way now. And it boils down to the water jet.
It does.
Yeah, really.
The water jet is the tool because it cuts accurate enough. I'll tell you another big one. A squirrel cage fan. We often, these flour mills, we get them coming over and it's all broke. And over time, the vibration of that squirrel cage fan spinning really, and I'm talking a fairly good sized, probably 32 inches in diameter by about this thick. And it's got all the plates in there that the air, blows the air out. Those things get ripped apart somehow, and they want us to squeeze them back together and weld them back together. The problem is these have to be balanced. You can't have too much weight on one side or it's going to eat your motor up. And so there's been 2 or 3 of those that we've built where we build everything with linking parts. There's got a notch on it, and you're able to get the perfect I wish I could explain it a little better maybe, but
Perfect diameter, perfect spacing.
perfect
width.
spacing, perfect pieces hold them together, and everything is linked together just like a puzzle. And when you tack that thing all together, it is perfect. You don't have to measure nothing, you don't have to build a jig or nothing. And you weld both sides of that tap going through there. And I would love to hear, I don't think I've ever heard back from S&G. They do our balancing for us. I don't think they've had to put much weight on there to balance it. Much like you would balance a tire at the
Oh, yeah.
tire store.
Yeah.
You know how they'll put the weights on one side or whatever?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So they'll have to put a little weld on one side, add a little more weight here so that it balances.
Yeah, so it spins and,
And I don't think they've had to put a whole lot on those to make them balanced. But we couldn't build them, and it's quick. So a lot less labor, because the welders out there just putting the pieces together.
yeah.
It's simple. And so that would be
You can't
another
make a mistake.
No,
You can't make a mistake.
can't make a mistake. Every part fits. You know which part goes where. The guy putting it together don't even have to hardly look at a print. I mean, you can just tell
You
you've
can
got
just tell.
this circle and these parts fit in all these slots welded together. So that'd be another big one that we've used for slotting parts together.
You also use it for, you slot things together on conveyors so you can take them apart and clean them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the same concept, you just don't weld them
Mm-hmm.
so they're permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say like 90% of your designs are now this way? Or is it just,
Yeah.
it's got to be a natural thought process at this point. How am I going to tab this? How am I going to make these?
It's, yeah, absolutely.
It is, because all your cross members on the conveyors go right into a slot.
Yep.
And you've got the exact dimension that you were after.
Well, and how busy is our water jet?
Oh man, it's
Always,
It's,
always busy, which tells you that that's the way we design things.
yeah. We've been
These days with that in mind.
We've been fairly slow. I mean, kind of slowed down. You know, there's just a bunch of little jobs, no big jobs, over through this COVID thing, and we're still running 18 hours a day on the water jet.
wow,
Not 18, about 16 hours.
that's a big day.
Yeah.
So are you at the point where you might have a second water jet? You thinking in those terms? I know they're expensive, but.
Oh,
man.
maybe. It hasn't. I mean,
I just think you'd have 2 pumps to rebuild
Oh,
now.
jeez. I'm not kidding about what's been about 6 weeks ago. We did the biggest rebuild on it that we've ever had to. We've had the water jet for about 8 years. Anyways, we had to replace the piston pump or piston gearbox. And I mean, we spent probably $12,000 in parts.
Oh, man.
Not to mention the downtime and the labor. And we rebuilt it over a weekend because we had stuff to cut.
Yeah, it's like this has to be up. and
So
running
we
Monday morning, right early.
we rebuilt it on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Wow.
It took both days.
You might get a second water jet as a spare someday.
Yeah, maybe someday. We'll see. I mean, everyone says that too. You know, they're like, well, what if you buy another water jet? Well, I just did. There's a new water jet sitting out there because we replaced all the parts on it. You know what I mean? It's it's basically a new water jet because I mean, there's some things we've actually replaced the computer on it.
So you've replaced almost every part.
I mean, we've replaced a lot of it. And Omax is, you know, a shout out to them. They're one of their service department and support that they still give us, even 8 years after, is unmatchable of any other piece of equipment we have. They care about us still.
They just follow up with you, they make sure you have the parts. Obviously, you did on a Saturday and Sunday.
They overnighted the pump or the gearbox Saturday delivery because
Wow,
it broke on Friday and
wow.
we had it running Monday morning.
Where are they based out of?
Seattle.
Ooh, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they are, and I know you've dealt with Flow before, and I imagine they're fairly similar.
They were very good too.
Yeah, so that they understand the importance of these water jets. I mean, they go down, and it's
Well, it's like the heartbeat of your
It is.
business. I mean, because if you're thinking, I'm gonna build interlocking parts, plasma is just not gonna do it.
Nope,
It's
it's
not even designed.
No,
for
in
that.
fact, it would shut Steve down here on most of his designs, really.
Well, yeah, I'd have to go back to the old
Oh man, we
old
would.
way, and it's, here's the thing, the water jet's expensive,
Mhm.
but what it can do for us is
Oh.
incredible, and what we've been able to do is incredible.
Yeah,
If you just think about the number of conveyors we've built in the last 6 weeks,
oh, it's a lot.
we have really cranked them out.
Yeah, we have.
We've been able to design, build, and deliver conveyors that I wouldn't have, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought would be possible.
It's true. Yeah.
So the cost of the water jet is substantial.
Yeah.
But the savings and what you do for business
I-
makes up for it.
Yeah, and
So
I.
let's get a second one in here, Chad.
Yeah, well, I try not to complain too much. It does cost a lot, but we can't do any other way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
And not
It's-
deliver conveyors.
No, we
in a-
could never
in a
deliver it.
week. Heck, we've been building a conveyor a week.
Yeah,
Wow.
in fact, the first ones we built,
More than-
we shelled those first two out in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
A week and a half, I think.
It was like, wow, we surprised ourselves, and everyone was mad at me because I was like the one who promised it.
Yeah, when the boss promises, it's okay.
But really, these plants can be over demanding, and it does get frustrating. And we built 8 conveyors, and I think the 6th one, or the last 2 maybe, we didn't kill ourselves for it because I told him, I was like, you couldn't go anywhere else and get this kind of service. And it's not like we laid down on them. It's just, we couldn't physically do it.
Yeah,
I mean, we just couldn't physically get it when they wanted it.
yeah.
And
So you have to be honest. That's part of customer
I was just honest with them, but they still try to get it quicker than you can. They try to put the heat on and.
Yeah.
Well,
You guys are in an industry where every minute counts.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about hours. We're saying if it's down, they start counting by the minute.
Yeah.
Because they start to lose a lot of money, a lot of material, a lot of everything.
And at the end of the day, I know that this customer recognizes that they couldn't have gone anywhere else and got what they got from us. They couldn't.
Yeah.
There's no way. Because I see it in the other equipment that we install, and they're 6-8 months out,
Yeah.
to get it. And we got it in 6 weeks. We got all their conveyors for them.
yeah.
That's unheard of. Nobody does that.
To them, were they installed over?
Yeah, installed.
Installed.
Wow.
6 weeks.
That's impressive.
hmm
Impressive.
8 conveyors.
All because of interlocking
Oh, sure.
parts,
Everything
and
was
water jet, and just
Mhm.
the way that you do things.
everything was water jetted.
And another thing I can't overstate is the mistakes. Mistakes happen, but when tab A has to fit in slot B,
hmm
you can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
And that, mistakes in the shop are pretty expensive.
So you guys are making conveyors for dummies, books for
Yeah.
dummies, hypnosis for dummies. You guys are building conveyors for dummies.
Yeah.
And that means follow the
they
the
can
numbers
just-
and you got it.
They can put a
Unfortunately,
conveyor
the,
together so quick.
the welder doesn't need to know as much as he used to.
Yeah.
And there's some good and there's some bad aspects to that. We sure would be crippled if we had to go back to building stuff without a water jet.
Yeah. Oh man.
It would be
Imagine.
tough.
You'd have to retrain all your guys. They
Yeah.
would not be happy.
They're just used to it, and really we think the same way. I have people come and ask me to quote jobs and stuff, and I'm like, why are you doing? Let's do it this easier way, And so we don't even think
Yeah.
in the old way, I'm calling it.
Yeah, I think.
We're better than everyone
Well,
else.
I think
but
there's two things. I
That's-
think
We don't even have to say that. That's it.
everyone else has copied me,
sure, they copied Steve. Yeah,
but we're still better than
we're still
everybody
better.
else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I'll say. You know, we having some new customers lately, and they were asking me about one of our competitors. You know, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll work next to those guys, no problem. You know, they know us, we know them, whatever. And then of course I end it by, but we're better, so you know.
We can teach you.
We're better at the job than they are. But.
Yeah.